Louis, welcome back to the Potential is Human podcast. I'm looking forward to where this goes, and I'm sure naturally we might ruffle some feathers, but always in the best way. Today, I would really like to just set the context around, vision. And often on this journey as human beings, we want to achieve and create certain outcomes, manifest certain results in our lives. But recently, I started looking deeper into this, and I started to see the link between the constant suffering and sadness, which is associated with the vision and the need to get somewhere else. And the way I expressed it was as a vision board, right? We're sometimes taught that you have your vision board, and on it you have the home and the family and the dog and the cars and the successful business, which allows you enough flexibility to still be a family man. And then we go in pursuit of these things. But for me personally, it's never actually come together the way the vision board said it would. And my own process has been letting go of the one who creates these visions so that it can be happy sometime in the future. May you please share whatever you feel you want to share around vision, intention, and becoming a powerful manifester.
Wow, thanks for that, Ryan. It probably is the single most important question I've been asked to date in my teaching and sharing career. So thank you for that. And I can speak only from a place of personal experience of what you're speaking about. From the day I can remember, from being a young boy, at the age of 9, I realized the power of manifestation. I used to manifest things at will. Literally, I would imagine something, see it, fully believe it was mine to have. If I could imagine, I realized that if I could imagine it, if it came up for me in my imagination, it would just pop in there. It wasn't like I saw something, I wanted something I saw. If it popped in there and it somehow served what I needed at the time, the minute I saw it and believed it was mine, in other words, I was being shown, so it was meant for me, and I believed it was meant for me, it would somehow, in the most bizarre way, end up. It was almost effortless. It would just end up. And it was even faster if I wanted it for someone else. And sometimes I would think it was like something magical happening. I remember once a school teacher was looking for his pen, and he looked around the room and no one had one. And I knew for a fact that day that I didn't have one. And I opened my little bag anyway, one of those. Remember those little brown suitcases we used to have as kids? And there was a pen. And I instantly realized I'd accidentally then taken my father's pen that evening. And there it was. So I gave him a pen. And I remember him saying something to me, a man should always have a pen on him. And that became I just happened to have a pen on there, It was like that. Things would just pop up. And so it was my first. I passionately loved motorcycles as a kid because it meant not having to walk to school and or cycle. And, I then manifested the job. So I started working at the age of 11 in a friend's butchery. And by the time I was 15, I had saved up enough. Actually, I was saving up to buy one when I was 16. And at the age of 15, because I still had, I think it was a motorcycle was 600 Rand, brand new little Kawasaki AE 50. And I had 520 Rand. So I had still 80 Rand to go. And I happened to walk past that motorcycle shop that day. And they had a special because there was a new model coming out. And so they dropped this motorcycle to 500 Rand. So I had a bike a year earlier. Things would just pop up into my life. And so it went. If I needed money, something would come up. I mean, I wouldn't just find money, although twice it happened that I arrived at an ATM thinking I didn't have money, put the card in the machine and realized someone had just left money behind. Then looked around to find who the person was, popped into the bank, said I'd found the money, and 2 days later, someone pitched up at my house to fetch the money, my little dorm room, to fetch the money they'd left in the ATM. And I handed them the money, really hoping they would give me some of it because I really needed it. And not only did they not give me back the money, they gave me a whole envelope with about 10 times the amount. This is really wealthy guy. And he'd never seen that type of action. And that money was enough money for me to survive for a full year. It was like money for a whole year worth of food. Things like that were just, and so I really believed in the power of prayer. I would ask for it, and I believed in God would give, provide. What I also didn't realize at the time is I was aligning with it. I was just aligning fully with it. It was effortless. And then in my early 20s, and I studied architecture. I became a qualified architect. I used to joke, everything I draw comes true. Simon, we used to have a cartoon on the telly in the 70s, little Simon, and everything he drew came true. And I realized if I draw it, it comes true. If I visualize it, there it is. If I had a design in me, I'd find a client who wanted that exact design, whether it be an alteration or a house. I specialized in acoustics and thermal insulation, so clients always wanted acoustic homes or studios or thermally insulated homes, which we call green buildings today. Back then, it was almost unheard of. And these things would just show up. And later, I left architecture and pursued a career in marketing and strategy. And I studied BCom, and then I did an MBA in strategic marketing, and then I did a doctorate in strategy. And I started to realize how visualization, if I imagined something, if I really wanted something, and I put it into complete clarity of vision, and totally believed I was capable of doing it and put it into an action, I'd make manifest. And so by the time I was 30, I was a millionaire, and a wealthy millionaire. I was doing really well. I had the Ferrari, and I had the supermodel wife, and I had the Armani suits, and I had the shoes and the watches and the briefcases and the Mont Blanc pens and all that nonsense that we so proudly wear because we want to be someone. But it became more and more difficult to hang on to it. And I was missing something, because if I have a vision, surely I'm meant to have it. What I didn't pick up on, and this is the vital, there's two types of vision. Victory vision, there's two types. Split that vision, split those two V's, and realize the reality. There's the two V's, okay? One is shown you when you be still and know I am. Total stillness and surrender to what is. No past. You're not bringing up the past. There is, the fear, the grudge, the vengeance, the unforgiven past. You're not resisting what is, dragging the past into the now, resisting, and then projecting it forward into the future, fear. And now you want to build something to escape the repeating of the past and the resistance of the here. So you want to create grandiosity, a house, car, family, money, pension, wealth, so that I'm in a position of power and cannot be dominated or controlled by others. I have autonomy, no authority over me. I have autonomy. That vision, greatness, look at me, look at what I've achieved, or just the pure desire to achieve stuff. Doesn't matter what. That's one type of vision. And that vision always comes from scarcity, or from the belief that you see something outside you and you believe, look, wow, look at that happy couple. They've just climbed out of that Porsche 911 RS, GT3. Wow, look how happy they are. Look, she's stunning. Look how happy he is. Look how, wow, they look so happy. You have no idea what's going on in their lives. And they could just be externalizing their false happiness. And now you decide, if I have that, I'll be happy. Put it on the vision board, manifest. And the struggle to keep it, because it's not meant for you. And yet, if you pursue that path of acquiring, the path will serve you in bringing you to an awakened state, which is the only purpose for being here. The only purpose for being here is to truly recognize the essence of what we are, to let go of that body, mind, ego identity in terms of what we think we are, attached to beliefs, values, identity, and really return to that awareness of being awareness itself, the essence of the self. Or in Christianity, you'd say the essence of the Christ mind, the oneness of self and Christ, capital S self, the soul, and the Christ mind, aware that you've never left your source, or you're the continuation of, or the extension of source. That's going quite deep into that. And so even egoic vision to make manifest, to capture people, places, things, and events, to own stuff in order to be happy. If you're vigilant while you do it, you'll realize that's the path of what's in the way is the way. And it's a tough path. Because as soon as you conquer, and as soon as you capture, let's say you've now achieved the desired job and you've just bought the house and you've just got the perfect car and you've just found the most perfect, in your mind, partner, woman, or a man, whatever, you know, and you're like, wow. And there's this total moment of wow, joy, and so happy. Success, we think. And the minute we think success, the identity says, I'll take that. The ego identity says, I'll take that. You're successful. You're happy because you're successful, because you've achieved. That's why you're happy. And you know, even a good car, a great car after 10 years doesn't smell like a new car anymore, no matter how much you spit and shine it and polish it. And no matter how amazing that partner was, the wife, the husband, whatever. After 10 years, you're quarreling over something. The romance is gone. You have to work at it. Of course, you can work at it. You can do the 5 love languages and work at it. But it takes effort now. Now, all of what was effortless once before is now such effort, and it requires more and more constant vigilance and attention to not get trapped in the problems of the world, because the more you acquire, the more problems come. The more you build the house, now you have to have security. Now you have to protect the stuff. You build the car, now you need insurances. You get the job, now you get more staff. And before you know it, you're worrying about everybody's livelihoods and sustainable abundance and sustainable growth to stay ahead of the curve. And yet, what's in the way will be the way if you realize the essence of what is experiencing all of this. And then there's the path of least resistance, which is the title for my next book. Now that goes against everything I understood as I pursued happiness. And that's the vital understanding, is what is vision for? Why do we pursue our vision, our desire? Because we want to be happy. Behind everything we pursue, whether it is to build a company, to create fusion-powered rockets that land in Jupiter and set up a new colony in some other galaxy, wonderful, great vision, and you go pursue it, wonderful. Or it is just to find the right partner, or to find the right job, or create a new business, or whatever it is. Behind all of it is the desire to be happy, because you believe that by owning, pursuing, acquiring, you'll be happy. Because that's what's happened. When you've acquired it, you've been happy. Even the desire to be spiritual or religious and to know God or to know source or to be one with the universe and the collective mind. And it's all of that, to know Christ, to be one with the Messiah, or to follow Buddha or Krishna, or to really live a virtuous life of Muhammad. And God bless all these wonderful saints that have come to show us a new way. Absolutely. Behind that is also the desire to be happy. Even the pursuit of enlightenment or awakening is because we believe that when we attain that level, we'll be happy. So let's just admit at this stage, everything we do is because we want to be happy. Now let's talk about the second type of vision. And if we go back to our younger lives and we just become aware of that which is aware of not only here now, this localized projection of a body mind, but the fact that this awareness was there even when we were young children. It was all pervading, it was there all the time. We may not have been consciously aware of it, but the awareness of awareness was there all the time. And if you return in your memory to those days, there it was. This awareness was always there. And when you were just aligned and happy and innocent and you're happy as a child, and just daydream, close your eyes, lay on the grass, stare at the clouds, ideas would come. Ideas, vision. Ideas, vision. Ideas are vision. Vision is idea. It would come effortlessly. You hadn't imagined it, and all of a sudden it came. And if you pursued it, the bicycle popped up, and you went, "Yeah, that'd be nice." And you set because you believed it completely, and it was shown you. Next thing you had the bicycle, didn't have to walk to school anymore, or whatever it was. It came effortlessly because vision was shown you. And that's what's meant to be. That's the path of least resistance. So let's think about this beautiful blue sky filled with clouds. It's really dark, and it just opens up and the rains pour. And it falls on the land, and it falls in the mountains, and it just all flows towards a central point. It becomes a river, and there it flows. And there it flows. And eventually it finds its home, the sea, effortlessly. Just the path of least resistance takes you home. What's in the way is the way, takes you home. Which path would you prefer? Now, the ambition says, if you haven't tried and worked hard enough for it, it's not worth it. Okay, I can only relate to myself. I really pretty much achieved everything I wanted to by the time I was 30, times 10 by the time I was 40. And soon after that, I realized the pointlessness of all of it. And it troubled me. My 40s was troubling. I mean, I still had an abundant life and I still had a lot of fun, but the pointlessness just became more and more pervading. It just eventually completely took all of it. And there was a darkness that came about, a real dark night of the soul here in my late 40s, as I started to realize the pointlessness, the meaninglessness of all of it. Because it just, so I ended up with a motorcycle collection of 30 motorcycles, every possible conceivable. I had the Ducati collection, all the S special models and classic old Bonneville's and Honda 1100 RD, my dream poster motorcycle. I had the classic cars, and they were just a pain in the bum. Constant fixing and constant repairing and constant breaking down. What did I buy them for? The experience, the expression. What did they become? A pain in the bum. Literally, And once I realized what did I really want it for, I loved motorcycles because they were the expression of joy, not the attainment of. And then I was able to let all of that go. And of course, I kept a motorcycle or two because I still enjoy the expression. And now it became effortless. And the more things become effortlessly aligned with your stillness of self, with your awareness of self, the essence of what we are, that life's force, that passionate nature, the natural passionate nature that we all have, that plays out differently, never to be compared to anyone else's. And you follow that. When that awareness comes, you've just reached halfway. Awakening, enlightenment is simply the recognition of our essential self. And that's halfway only. And we think, okay, but now we're going to be happy. You're totally happy and peaceful in that silence. But that essence is forever extending in the eternal now as the very essence of self. And if you'd like to give it the word source or God, the essence of God, we're made from the self-same essence, and it's continually extending and expanding and sharing of itself with all of itself. And that's what calls to us to return, either through the path of most resistance or the path of least resistance. We'll get there. But when that essence is found, it will now want to pour back in. And it will use everything that you've accumulated in your natural ability and talent and strength, in your path of most resistance. And it'll use all of those faculties, abilities, talents to pursue it in the path of least resistance. So you'll just surrender to what is, silently in that, and allow it to come to you. And then your passion will rise to your awareness, and you'll want to pour it in. And now the plan comes again. So you once planned for achievement and vision and create, strategy, time plan, actions, who does what, short interval controls, measure, achieve, celebrate, all those little tricks, and now just falls effortlessly into place. The focus softens and it just lines up and it just falls into place. And I found for the first 10 years, how can this be? This is too easy. I was expecting something to go wrong. It didn't. It just became easier and easier and easier. It's like, what happened to that? Come on, you can do this. Motivating people. There's always someone working against you. There's always someone trying to sabotage. It just lined up. Why? Because I surrendered to what is. I let go. I let God. We've heard of those sayings before, And so either the universe provides, and the universe is the activity of our dreaming mind in wanting to pursue things that we think will make us happy, or God, source, provides, meaning it's already in you. And if you just surrender to what is and allow it to be shown, it'll be shown and it'll be effortless, and you'll know it comes from a loving place because it wants to serve of itself to all its selves. And here's the big shift. What you wanted in wanting to be successful, you let that go, the word success, and you want to express joyfully. So you replace success, which is achievement, with the word joy, which is expression. The joyous expression of self, or the infinite lightness of being, wants to be joyously expressed through itself in what appears to be doing. The doer is gone because now it's an expression, as opposed to the identification, the unbearable lightness of being. There was a movie called that, Ralph Fiennes it. The unbearable lightness of being, wanting to conquer and pursue the world, and conquer the world and pursue its happiness, surrenders to infinite lightness, wanting to share of itself through its passionate nature. On the outside, to the uninformed, it will look exactly the same. But the one you're smiling and nothing upsets you. And even if there is something in the way, you'll just duck around it, short pass. Whereas the other one, you'll conquer. And you get home and you're tired and you're exhausted and you can't understand why the good person is experiencing bad things. You just want to create this wonderful vision and everything's in the way. The municipality, the government, the authority, the supplier, the customer, the transportation, whatever. And the other one is just everything just seems to fall in place. You have to go through it because you'll start to go, this is just too easy. This is meant to go wrong. And if you keep believing it's meant to go wrong, it will. But it just starts to give you proof because you're pouring, and that river is going to find the ocean. And it's just going to find the simplest and easiest way around. And it's still passionately pouring. It's still got waterfalls and swirls, and it's still bashing up against a couple of rocks, but it's so natural. And those rocks are generally being worn down ever so slightly over time. And the flow is there. No matter what's in the river, it doesn't matter because it flows with it. And come rain or shine, the river flows. And sometimes the river doesn't flow as intensely because it's the winter season. And now the rains come and it flows again, And so there'll be those ebbs and tides where there's an intensity of flow and a gentleness of flow. What's out of the way now is the idea of success. Because it's not the pursuit of, it's the expression of. Pursuit of, it's the expression. I knowingly am that which wants to pour itself joyously out as this expression. It's no longer attached to an identity or what it wants to be seen as a person with a title and a blah, 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 blah. It just simply wants to pour itself joyously into the world. Whereas the other one was the attainment of, because somewhere along the line we saw it and we thought if we have that, we become this, then that will be. And that just gently gets replaced. And yet if those need to do that comes up, and that's, if I have a client that needs to pursue, please, by all means, go. By all means, put it into action, visualize it, see it, believe it, ardently believe you can achieve it. Viktor Franklin's book, Man's Search for Meaning, pretty much summarizes, see it, believe it, ardently pursue it, total faith, go, put it into action, goals, set schedules, times, timelines, drive, short interval controls, report, celebrate, bang, you'll have it. Success. And then you're going to have to try and keep it. And you wonder, why is everyone fighting you? Yet with the path of least resistance, no one's fighting you for anything. It just flows. Enemies become alliances. Because what are your enemies but your many me's projected outwards, seen as obstacles to peace, because you are in resistance to what is. You've dragged your entire past into the present and now projected into the future. No one's going to create a future of peace by dragging a painful past into the present, reliving it in resistance and hoping the future is going to be peaceful, because you're only reproducing what you're experiencing in the here now. And so if you're not at peace, you're not going to create peaceful experience. You are most powerful creators. The collective mind created the entire universe. That's how powerful we are. Of course, we can't remember, because the minute we come into physical form, into density, the memory's gone. And yet the memory isn't fully gone, because it calls us to make known the joyous expression of being. The mistake is, in the path of most resistance, we want to make known the unknown. There's a reason why it's unknown, because it's never to be known. Yet when you follow the path of least resistance, you're simply making known the forgotten, not the unknown. There's a big difference between the forgotten and the unknown. The unknown can never be known by that which is, but the forgotten is revealed when that which is pours itself passionately, lovingly, unconditionally into its creation, which is all. I hope that gives you a completely different way to look at what you already are doing. You're already living it. Now just throw away the idea of success. The fact that you've already crossed this veil of forgetfulness into responding to the call from within to pour yourself passionately into it means you're already through the veil. You've just stepped out of the swimming pool. You were once deep in the water. You had to swim to float. You're out of the pool. You're completely wet. You think you're still in the pool. You're out of the pool already. Just go take a couple of steps further. Let the sunlight shine, and you will know you are dry in the light of awareness. You're out of the pool. You're no longer having to swim against the current. You've become the current. And it goes against all we've been taught as business people and ambitious young men who wanted to pursue and grow and acquire and create, because we believed we had to climb mountains. There is no mountain. That's it.
Yeah, it touches deep, because I know exactly what it's like to tread water and climb mountains for sure. I almost believe like you have to know that first. And there's teachers, and I'm not embarrassed to admit it all, for anyone who may hear this, that I also made the vision board, and best you believe sat down for 15 minutes connecting what that vision of the house in Bali would feel like. And then, like you mentioned, let go, let God, right? Let go, let God came in after standing up. It was like, okay, I've been here for 15 minutes. I've totally felt what it would be like. I've imagined it. And then go do your normal day, go to work, and then let go, let God, because then it's all going to come to you, right?
Mhm.
Can you just go back to the let go, let God part so we can really land what that means?
It's meant to be. It's love calling itself to know itself as love. Unconditional love is simply unconditional acceptance of what is. Can you imagine loving everyone in this world in exactly the same way? Impossible. You know, I mean, put Julie Malema next to me for 10 minutes. I'm probably going to punch her in the ear. You know, her and all her cadres, even though apparently she's now a martial art expert. That'd be funny. Can I possibly love Julie that way? We all know who we're talking about. No, I find him to be an annoying little shit. An arrogant, self-righteous person who doesn't give a damn about any of the people he represents. Yamazaki whiskeys, bottles at a time, while the people that vote him in are starving. But if I accept him as is and realize he's part of the big play, then I can laugh alongside him and have a whiskey with him because I no longer judge him. Because that which I thought I was needed to identify myself in a certain way and judge him for what he is. Now I realize he's part of the big play, and what in me needed to resist him? It was my idea of seeing myself self-righteous, the good guy, and he's the bad guy. Yet ask him if he wakes up with ill intentions. He doesn't. He truly believes that he's doing the best he can. And when you realize, if I just accept him as is and be this shining example, next thing you have him, Lou, won't you be my spiritual advisor? And the instinct was to say, piss off. And I realized I can't help him unless I'm helping him. Of course, he didn't want my help when I shared with him how he needed to go. But at least I showed up and planted a seed. Maybe one day he shifts, maybe not. But the identity no longer has a strong enough hold on to this that says, I'm right, you're wrong. And therefore I stand this and I won't. It just allows it to be. And so unconditional love is to accept people as they are and realize I'm not there to fix the world. I'm there to fix my awareness of self in the world and realize that all I see and look upon is an expression of my inner state of mind. And so if the inner world is happy, the outer world is an expression of that happiness. And if I'm seeing obstacles and I'm resistant to something, instead of looking at what's wrong outside me, I inquire, where's that coming from? Because what I see in the world are effects of my source thinking, my thinking, as I am an extension of source. So if I'm seeing error in the world, there must be an error inside me. And when I inquire within, find the error, forgive the error, look through it, let it go, the world changes for me. And now people that I would have seen as obstacles or possible enemies even, they don't trigger you anymore. And now it just becomes effortless. So don't leave a venue thinking, look at that arsehole drinking Yamazaki with cream soda. How mad is he? 80,000 rand bottle of whiskey. What's wrong with the man? He's an idiot. I look at it and I smile and go, that poor kid, he hasn't figured it out yet. And perhaps there's an opportunity to demonstrate a better way. Not that I'm going to decide what's the better way, but perhaps I'll be shown and perhaps contact will be made again, and perhaps it could lead to a happier country a year or two down the line if everyone starts working towards a common goal. In South Africa right now, people feel powerless, completely powerless. The government this, the government that, apartheid this. We have one group of people going, the good old days, if things only were that. Well, the only way you could think good old days if you were one of the oppressors, or at least benefited from it. Because if you were living in a township under you know, dictator rule 30 years ago, you wouldn't have thought good old days. And so life to many people in South Africa is better than it's ever been before, but it could be so much better. And there's the problem, could be. So instead of attacking Eskom and thinking they were powerless, if everybody in South Africa decided, let's get off the grid, for example, I'm using an extreme example. I know it's costly. I know that poor people can't afford it, but let's just go ideal world. And we all just decided to do our best in solar panel and let's put windmills in our front gardens like we had on our farms, wind turbines. They just look like those good old farm windmills. And we just, borehole and turn it into power generating windmill, and it's charging batteries and whatever. I'm just going crazy, And we looked for solutions together and chose to imagine where this country will be in 20 years' time. But because we're feeling powerful and the government owes us and these guys messed it up and the ANC messed up and the DA is messing up. I mean, if the DA and ANC came together, you'd have a party called Dance, DA and ANC. You'd have a dancing party. Man, it'd be amazing. Let's imagine that. Let's get together, put our differences aside, work together. How do we create power? The reason we have blackouts, load shedding or a load of shedding, is because we're all feeling so powerless and we don't realize cause and effect. And yet if we were to take our power back and be powerful and create power and look at how we can contribute and everybody did their little part, we had a completely different country.
Mm-hmm.
And the powers that be would be a reflection of the collective mindset. If we think the government is forcing on us and making us struggle, we don't realize the government's just a representation of the collective mind. Until the collective mind shifts into a higher consciousness, the government's going to represent our lower consciousness. And when you find people of a higher intellect and a higher wherewithal and a higher understanding still complaining, listen to Double O Des. Don't know if you know who he is. He's got quite a big following. He's based in the Cape. Double O Des. He's a lovely guy. He's a highly intelligent dude. Highly intelligent. Funny man. I find him a funny man, but man so intelligent and so accurate and cuts through the shit. Double O Des always has a solution. So he gripes, he'll give you the problem, and then he'll give you a solution. There's a guy trying. Just complaining is easy. If I wanted to listen to constant complaint, I'd just get married. I'm joking. I'm sure there's
Be careful.
happy couples out there, I'm sure. But I choose to, because happiness is a choice.
Mm.
And unless you choose it, you can't experience it. And so I choose to make it. I've gone and empowered myself. But inverters, I can't have that. I've got a thatch home, so I can't put solar panel because there's no way to hook it up. And so I've just gone the inverter route. And so when the power goes out, I've got power. And I've got a generator. If it's going to be out for a couple of days, then I've got a generator, run the fridge. And I've adapted. And I'm happy because I choose to be. There's always, the kettle gets boiled and it gets poured into an urn in case there's no hot water in 3 hours. So you adjust. Hey, think about back old good foot tracker days. We made a plan. You boil the water and you made biltong. So there was always food for the next day. Let's adjust. Not when we're in resistance to what is, hoping things were better. Hope. I mean, if you place your hope or faith in illusions, you will be disillusioned and you will end up hopeless. But place your faith and belief in the vision you're shown, which means the choice to see anew, a choice to be happy. The vision gets shown you because you've chosen happiness. You've chosen peace. Put your faith in that. This world turns into a beautiful place.
You've mentioned the state of South Africa, our country, and I think of business, and the fact that we're discussing vision. Lish, what does this mean for business when you think of that vision, that egoic vision, right? So I'm a businessman and I have this vision for a grand business and so many employees, and we're going to become something successful. If that vision is the vision from the one that wants something in order to be successful and happy, well, then that vision is contributing to the collective destruction versus the vision which is shown. So I'm hoping business people hear this. Business people, men, women, like, what is the vision for the business? Because someone might be saying, Luis, my vision board, a portion of my vision board is my business and where this business is going to go and what we're going to become together. But from what you're saying, that's the first vision we spoke about. How does somebody who's perhaps looking at their vision board, hearing this today and now going, shit, I actually don't even know what true vision may be. I've always believed in my own visions, my own ideas of what a success needs to be. Where would someone, myself included, even begin to say, Luis, now what? If I'm not going to look at the vision board, what am I going to look at?
You have to get the why right. Why are we doing this? You have to start there, and that means bringing the collective, all your employees together and saying, why do we do this? Why do we want to do this? And inevitably, there's going to come out the answer: sustainable growth. You want to be the ability to sustainability, and you want to be growing fairly at a sustainable rate, so that you're around for the foreseeable future and that you create employment. Now, bearing in mind, whoever created the business, if that person's still around, the vision is going to be based on their vision for the business. So that person, if he's still around or has been handed over to someone else, will be the final decision on the direction of vision. But you want everyone included, and you want people agreeing on why. Why do we want to go there? Why are we doing what we do? Because the minute you get to why right, you connect with who you're trying to serve. So the greater good, or whatever the case is, the service comes into the why. And then you have to bring everybody together in terms of how are we going to do it, and agree that the how serves the why. Always have the why. The why is the vision. Why are we doing this? And make sure that the how is always bounced against the why. If your how contradicts the why, change the how. The what's irrelevant, because the what is determined by the market. The market determines the what, which means the serving of the greater good. Most companies want to market their what as if their what is so special. It's only special if the market agrees that it is. The how is irrelevant to the market unless it's not serving them and how you deliver it. And the reason people buy anything is because the why is aligned. There's that statement that salespeople like to use and marketeers like to use, which is really stupid. And they say things like, people buy from people. What? Who else would they buy from? That's the daftest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And people regurgitate it because they never think about it. Of course, people buy from people. Who do they buy from? Monkeys? People buy from like-minded people. If you align with the why, you have to realize that there's no point in being genius and no one understands it. And those innovators, best you get your why out if you want people to buy into innovation, because the pioneers are going to be stretching the boundaries all the time. If it hadn't been for the pioneers, if people only create what people want, what the market wants, today we wouldn't be driving cars with ABS and windscreen wipers and seat belts and EBD and, heated seats and traction control. Innovators brought those new ideas to market. But you have to sell the vision. Why? So indicators on the car 80 years ago. Why? So that people can see which way you're turning so you don't crash into each other. There's a reason. Cool. Good idea. Windscreen wipers. Well, because it's going to get wet and you can't keep wiping with, okay. And so it went. And so the innovation is going to come. Now we're going to go into self-driving cars. Well, does the market really want it? I don't know. Is there a better solution? I don't know. You best understand what the market wants. If you're building self-driving cars like Mr. Uber did, I forget his name, the guy that tried to build Uber, genius. He's now running food kitchen companies or something. He wanted to do self-driving cars so he could get rid of the Uber drivers. He could make more money. Well, the very people that put him on the map, the Uber drivers, went, up yours, dude. I'm not buying into your vision. And so he snookered himself, in essence, when he became ruthless in his pursuit of his vision, as opposed to joyful, as he did when he started the company, I assume. And so make sure the why is connected, and make sure that the why stays relevant and stays true, and you're in your integrity in your why, and you're authentic about your why. Never lie about your why. And you can't, once your why is right, your how can't lie about your how. It has to be authentically delivered. And the what will then adjust and adapt like the flowing river based on what the market's asking you for. You can't create a business and shove it down someone's throat. People ask, and if you're able to make life easier, faster. But keep in mind, especially in Africa, do we want to make things easier, better, faster to get rid of labor that constantly strikes, or to make it easier for labor so they don't strike? Do we truly care about people, or are they just workers in a factory who just need to comply? They should be grateful for having a job. No, we should be grateful that they're willing to work for us. And can we treat every single person in our company as if they were a family member? When I was running a big chemical company, when I had strategy sessions, the security guards used to join. Not when I was running product strategy sessions, but definitely in the supply chain, in the product delivery, in the packaging, where they had visual impact on it. I brought the security company. They thought I was mad. The ideas came from security guards. When I'm looking at office automation and I'm looking at how things work in the office and the canteen, the office cleaners, they get brought into the strategy session. Do you realize what happens when you bring in the office cleaner into a strategy session and you walk past it the next day? Do you realize how you've changed that person's life? Do you realize what you become to that person? And you think they're not going to clean the next time? And if they aspire to go from cleaner to receptionist, why not? Do you think everybody wants to be a cleaner? Or do you think they do it because that's all they have? When we start paying attention, attention goes. When we pay attention. When we put intention, we just get more tension. Because the intention is always selfish. Intention is always selfish. It's always self-serving. So I intend. There's always the little I in intention. When you choose to serve, attention. You pay attention. And the minute you've paid with your attention, no more tension. Try it. It's just a play on words. And sometimes I'm rather punny, but I've realized it's real for me. And if it's real, it must be real for all. And I've put it to the test, and it certainly is.
There's definitely instances where I can certainly say it's real. I don't know the details of the Uber example, but what I hear there when you share is like the one path, is service to self and bigger business, get rid of the Uber drivers. And the other part of, empowering Uber drivers to earn an income and provide for their families is that distinction where it becomes the path of service to others.
Yeah.
And that's, again, I guess that's the intention and attention. One's, it's serving the little self, and the other is serving ourselves. Luis, somebody who's now sitting today and says, well, I have no cooking clue where to next, where to from here, because I can see with my awareness that it's very easy for me to step into that path of all my shiny ones, and I can stand up and go and do what I need to do to have the car, or I can listen, but then what does that look like? That stillness and gratitude, and I know you'll be able to elaborate even better.
Funny enough, the shiny car might still be part of it. Everything else that you intended might still be part of it. The only difference is, where is it coming from? Is it to acquire in order to be happy? or is it to share my happiness? What's wrong with a shiny car? What's wrong with a nice house? What's wrong with a great business and employing thousands of people? What's wrong with wanting a house in Bali? Nothing. Why do you want it? Because it's an expression of my joy. Fantastic. Because I think it'll make me happy. No, it won't. And if it does, it's temporal. It's the sharing of or the acquiring of. Wrong vision, right vision. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that answers it perfectly.
It took me 50 years to figure that out. But I had to fully understand it to be able to teach it, because I'm not going to teach another concept. And then I lived it. I lived it for 15 years in formalizing it. And as it came with clarity and understanding, and beyond understanding, there was a transcendence of understanding into the knowing of it with complete and total clarity. And now I'm in my 10th year of really pouring it. And it's and paying close attention to how it makes manifest. Not. It's always been there. I'm not making anything manifest. It's always been there, showing up to reflect me back at me. And the realization just keeps opening up that sense of self-awareness of the awareness itself. It's the biblical I am that I am. Whereas wrong vision is I think, therefore I am. And then I am not. And they didn't finish the sentence. Whereas right vision is I am that I am. It's a pouring out of as a chasing of to bring in. And it's very clear when it happens, and sense of self, of the eternal now, the sense of the eternal now, always gives you proof, because it's the very reason why we're here, is to know it. And it wants to show itself to you as the self, which is all there is. Which is all there is. It's the only thing there is this infinite, ever-extending, gentle, loving, peaceful essence to which we could give the word universe or source or God. It's one and the same thing. And the scientist would just call it infinite quantum energy, ever-extending. It's the same thing. It's pure, untouched, unfiltered energy. God, energy, God, same thing. And it wants to be shared, and it wants to be poured, and wants to be known by itself, that is forgotten and thinks it's this. God only has one son. Collectively, there's only one. And the Bible, I'm bringing the Bible up now. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever shall believe in him shall have eternal life. John 16, verse 10. Nope. You guys messed up the Latin translation. For God so loved his son that he gave him the entire world, that through experiencing what he is not, he may remember what he is and know I am. Just a little tweak. And it all makes sense. But I had to go through it in order to know it. And of course, I had to go the difficult route, you know. And now I'm able to share it so that you realize there's an alternative to the tough route. But the initiate is going to go the tough route anyway. But at least now there's an alternative when they finally, enough. Okay, let's try that. Because you have to get to that point of enough. You're not going to try the path of least resistance if you haven't had enough of resistance. So when people wanting to go the path of most resistance, help them, because they will get to that point of no more. what's that martial arts saying? Path of most resistance. Eventually it'll just be domo arigato, but you'll eventually open the hands, the path of the empty hand, no resistance. But you have to first get enough of that. Enough. Okay, now I'm ready to. And you're not going to teach a 19-year-old or 30-year-old that's ambitious, driven, pursuit. You're not going to teach them the path of least resistance. And don't make a mistake that the path of least resistance is sitting on your couch with remote control in your hand, eating a hamburger, lounges in a mess, mom's gone to work so that you could just be that lazy whatever and you've never left home. That's not path of least resistance. That's giving up. Turning into a slob and saying the world's to blame for my misery and I didn't ask to be born. Of course you asked to be born. You projected here. No one forced you here. No one made you come here and take your race or your sex or your looks or your brain. You chose all of this. You are infinite energy. Part of the collective dreamer's mind. You've chosen this. You can't remember, and now you want to blame everybody else. You chose this. So now giving up is not an option. Giving up is not an option. It's an excuse. And there's no point in the path of most resistance. But we want it, and so go until you get to that point enough. And now this is the other alternative way. Or you've come through with enough awareness after having tried countless lifetimes of course, you can't remember any of them either. And now you built in, you've come into this life and it wants to flow. And then you're ready. And as the collective mind awakens more and more, so more will come through naturally, almost instinctively following the path of least resistance.
As a collective, Lewis, when you speak about that, I see how we celebrate the path of most resistance. It's like, they were so determined and they bashed their head against the rock and they got it done and they made manifest. But like, we want to celebrate and call that person famous for their accomplishments. So we almost amplify and continue that trajectory or tradition of doing it that way.
Yeah, sure. Let's mention the top 10 richest people in the world, the top 10 richest trillionaires. Anyone know who they are? Anyone care? Yet we remember Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa. How can we remember them? We all speak of our South African contingency in the USA, Mr. Musk. Only a couple of years older than us. Only 5 years older than me. Yeah. Mr. Musk, I think, looks older. Certainly looks tired. So you want to go to Jupiter or Moon or Mars or Colony. Imagine the top 10 richest people in the world decided to give all their wealth back to the world instead of a colony on Mars. We'd fix the world's problems immediately. But it's not what the world wants. The world wants the path of most resistance. That's why there are still wars. That's still why we're fighting, because the world believes in fighting for dominance. It believes in scarcity. It believes in resisting what is. It believes in dominating and control. It still believes in slavery. Of course it does. It's just in a very different way to 100 years ago. It still believes in, it's still very sexist. It's still very chauvinist. It's still very, of course it is. It serves it. And then you've got the pendulum swinging on the other side, and it wants to become this new generation woke, and it wants equality of outcome. You'll never get equality of outcome. Equality of outcome can only be shared in the infinite sense of self. The self is equal in outcome. The projected body mind will never be, because it's trying to get you to that I've had enough of resistance, surrender to what is, and let the all-pervading awareness of awareness make itself known as that which is always equal amongst all. And if we all in this world, all 8 billion of us, had that awareness of self, there would just be peace and sharing, and no one would be hungry ever again. But that's not why we came to this plane. Because the minute we all become that, there will be no need for this. Because the only function of this world is to bring us into the awareness of being aware, of being awareness itself, of being the essence of the extension of source, life itself, our shared being. And so this plane is designed perfectly to bring us into conflict so that we get to that point of surrender and let go and let God. Perfectly designed.
It's interesting that you mentioned Mother Teresa and Mahatma Gandhi, the Nelson Mandela from our country. Like, we remember them, in my opinion, from the essence of who they were being. Yet the majority of the collective still then identify with the fame and the fortune and the trillionaire. But the natural remembering is like Mother Teresa, a beautiful soul, because we are that.
Ask any kid today, who's Howard Hughes? No one remembers Howard Hughes. He was the Elon Musk and even bigger in his day. He was Elon Musk. Reclusive, blah, 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 the biggest airplane, the biggest this, the biggest that, flight. We fly in airplanes today because of Howard Hughes. We have transatlantic flights because of Howard Hughes.
I didn't even know that
no one
myself.
knows who he is today.
No.
Okay, no, just look him up. He was mad. DiCaprio, he played a movie. Any connection to Howard Hughes and Hell's Angels? Howard Hughes watched the movie Hell's Angels, and that's what inspired him. And that's where Hell's Angels, hell, this world, angels, those that bring light and salvation to this world. First World War fighter pilots, biplanes, Hell's Angels. And that inspired him. And today we have transatlantic flights because of Howard Hughes. No one remembers him now. Do you think in 200 years people will remember Elon Musk? I mean, we speak of Ford Motor Company. Does anyone know who Henry Ford was? Does anyone actually care? Yes, the Ford employees will speak of Henry Ford because it's plastered all over the company. No one else cares. If your Ford Fiesta breaks down, do you think you care about the fact that Henry Ford built his first car in his kitchen? Who cares? And that's the problem, is in our day, we idolize these so-called, does anyone really know Elon Musk if he's happy? I watched an interview where he cried because Neil Armstrong didn't recognize him because he wanted to impress Neil Armstrong. He built a rocket ship to impress his heroes, and then he built it for the wrong reason. And then he was disappointed because his heroes weren't impressed. Of course they wouldn't be. They saw him as opposition and competition. When you do things to impress upon others, those that are impressed aren't worthy of your time. It's those that don't give a damn as to what you're doing that you should spend time with, because they're just being their authentic self. Those are the people you draw inspiration from. We have heroes in this world. Do we really know anyone? We spent 30 years with someone, married to someone, 30 years. Think about it. Long marriage, 30 years. In those 30 years, how many hours a day did you spend with them? If you took all those hours and collapsed it into days and years, in a 30-year period, if you're lucky, you spend 3 years with your partner in totality. And is 3 years enough? If someone spent 3 years with you, would they fully know you completely in and out? Absolutely not. You don't know you. Do you really know yourself in totality, in total honesty? How many people do you think have sat and really considered self? And what am I? And all aspects of self. We don't even know ourselves, yet we go into the world and we're already measuring and judging the world, yet we don't even know, because this is constantly changing. And just when you think you figured it out, it's shifted again. Yet the I am of it, that which observes all of it, that which is aware of being awareness itself, has never changed. Know that, and you know all of it.
Lewis, would you say that the vision of success, right? The path of most resistance. I view it as that there's always a cost. There's some cost involved in that path, right? So the vision of success and being the successful businessman, that may mean the cost is not being at home, right? Not being with your loved ones, not seeing your children off to school in the morning. If we chose the path of least resistance, so the other vision, does that path, from what you've explained, have no costs? It's just a natural flowing. So it's work, and then it's children, and it's loved ones, and it's health, and it's presence, or is there always a cost?
It's got the biggest cost of them all. The path of least resistance has the biggest cost of them all. But that cost is the cost of your identity. It costs you your ego. It destroys your ego because it's a very costly, destructive annoyance if you don't let it go. But it's a glad exchange because you're letting go identity in terms of what you think you're meant to be for the world to. And here's the beauty of it all. And by experience, in letting that go, all else has been given me, and way more than I could have ever imagined. Way more than I could ever have imagined. And the sense of self, capital S, soul, spirit, divine, relate, has grown and keeps growing. And the joy keeps increasing. And I know it's not massive. It's like a billionth of a degree every day. And when you look again, you've shifted 10 degrees. And life is just life. And you look again, you think, I'm just so happy. I'm so at peace. When did this happen? When did this happen? So there's a cost, and that's the cost of the ego, body, mind, identity.
And that's, I guess, the greatest fear.
But it's a cost anyone would be glad to give up and pay if they realize what it is and just allow it to become known in that stillness of self. But it is the biggest fear because we get so trapped in the identity that the giving up of the identity appears to be the biggest cost we must pay. And yet it's zero cost because as soon as you let it go, it's really what I'm actually saying is that wonderful verse. It's biblical again. It's seek ye first the kingdom to know thyself. The kingdom is be thyself knowing. That is the kingdom. And all else shall be given you. Why? Because the kingdom is a total alignment with the kingdom. The self is totally aligned with the self. Self and the kingdom are one. I and my Father are one. And when I align with that, I have it all because having and being are the same. At the cost of an identity that never existed and it constantly evolved and never stayed and will one day die, whereas the self is eternal, knowingly. And it's that self which will die that is ever changing that we try and hang on to and make manifest. That is the dearest cost of all. It costs us the awareness of the quality of self, which is the quality of life, the children. Why do you have children? Joy of the little joy bundles. 11 minutes of pleasure, 30 years of hell, and all of those jokes that go with it. But it's meant to be, you're meant to enjoy your children for the rest of your life. Your partner, the reason why you build the house and go to Bali or whatever it is. It's meant to be eat, pray, love joyously, eternally, not eat, pray, love, repeat. Find the next one. And so the cost of the path of most resistance is the cost of self-awareness. And you've seen it. You've heard all the stories. They get to their late 60s, 70s, 80s, to their deathbed, and then they write the poems that says, I wish I'd smelt the roses. Whereas the path of least resistance, you're smelling the roses. You don't get to your deathbed and think, I wish I'd smelt more roses. There's no poetry written because your whole life's been a poem of sharing and being. I'm not saying it's going to be effortless because there's going to be resistance in some form coming up somewhere. Maybe your kid decides to become a path of most resistance in your life and drag you into it. That's okay. That's their path. You're going to let them go too. But at least you're not constantly fighting the world. And when you're in alignment with self and that which is self seen as the world, it all just comes. And because it's meant to be, it comes effortlessly in ways you could never have imagined it. If you had told me 10 years ago that today I'd be running and owning a bio-nutrition company, I didn't know what bio-nutrition was. No idea what it was. And of course, I got handed again a tiny little struggling company. And by month 3, we're now doing more turnover than we were in a full year, never mind the profits, because it's effortless. Mm. And of course, I have the skills and the talent, or else it wouldn't be given me. And I had no desire for it. It literally landed on my plate.
You're saying the bio-nutrition company wasn't on your vision board?
No, I had no idea what bio-nutrition was.
Yeah.
I had no desire for it. I thought I was done with work. I thought I'm now ready to retire and just write another book or two. And here it is. And I'm loving it and I'm having so much fun. And I'm learning all about Sphera bio-nutrition. Wow. And it's a beautiful little company and it's clean and the integrity is immaculate. And I couldn't add anything. I couldn't have imagined something so pure. And it's contributing to well-being. And it's helping. There's so many people we're helping. And yes, of course, you're making money because you're having to support and sustain staff. But I love being there, and I look forward to getting up and going there. And the creative juices are flowing, and vision comes, and I'm now. I learned about collagen and what collagen was, and 5-HTP and Tulsi and mushrooms and how mushrooms change everything. And I'm not talking ayahuasca mushrooms. I'm talking about stuff that brings about memory care. It's amazing. Yeah, I might live to be 100 because of these products. Now, I have no idea, no ambition to live forever, but all of a sudden I'm realizing I've never felt so energized and so happy and so filled with life and energy. Wow. Who could have imagined? I said I was lucky to make it to 60. Now I think I'm lucky if I don't make it to 100. Unlucky for the rest. It'll be around for a long time now. Now I'm going to pour all of this for the next 40 years. Why not? Because the joy of sharing is now all pervading. It's just, and you move out of resistance. You move out of all resistance at once. I was flatting. I don't want a partner. I don't want a relationship. Now, if she decides to find me, cool. They always pick you anyway. The right one always picks you.
Luis, if someone's hearing you share today, outside of the business that you're doing, you also teach A Course in Miracles. Perhaps they resonate and they want to join you in your space. Do you want to tell people where they can find you and what it is that you teach?
Yeah, so I teach 3 times a week, generally starting at 6 p.m. You'll find me on YouTube, the past videos. And I teach the book. I teach from the book A Course in Miracles, which is a non-dual understanding of Christianity, really. It's Christianity seen from a non-dual understanding. It's a mystical Christianity. Father, Son, and Self are one. The essence of our shared being and a non-dual understanding. And so I'm not really teaching anything. We can't teach anything new. We're just resharing that which is the eternal known. And so I teach in order to extend and enhance my own knowing. And you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook, A Course in Miracles, South Africa. There's a website, Miguel Falcao. But yeah, it's all free. I don't coach. I don't do personal coaching. I share because it's free. It came to me free, and I now share it free. If you want a coach, there's Ryan. Go get a coach. If you need a mentor, there's Ryan. But my talks are free. You just dial in, and together we're unveiling the forgotten and remembering what we are collectively. It's a happy path. And the price we pay is the death of the ego, but the awakening of the eternal self. And there's nothing to fear because it's fearless and it's joyous. And once you're aware of it, you realize there was nothing to be afraid of, because it is that which is without fear. It is the eternal happy self. It is the butterfly, not the caterpillar, not the cocoon. It's the butterfly. Yeah.
Thank you, Lush. Yeah, for sure. You've given everyone who hears this, myself included, a lot to digest around vision. I appreciate it. Is there anything else that you may want to share?
Just be yourself until it comes to you. Don't force it. It will come at its appropriate time, and you do what's right by yourself, but always be authentic and honest with self, and then pour yourself authentically and honestly with the rest of it, and alignment will come in this life or hereafter. It'll come. It's meant to. What's meant to be will be. And if you could just be authentically yourself, that self will make itself known through the self.